Click the links for Odysee, Bit Chute, join channel, become a valued member, or support channel on Coffee or the other various methods, including crypto, if you want to stay anonymous. And I know some of you do, which is fun. Or on Odysee. Odysee is freaking awesome. I am loving Odysee. I'm seeing there's a lot of, I guess you could say loosely, get woke, go broke headlines that are cropping up. Eventually, it seems like you run out of other people's money, venture capitalist money. You just kind of outrun the funds. You just keep spending, and people, they're putting off awaiting that return on investment. Whoever funded it is hoping for some return on investment, and it's just like you just keep putting it off. It's like, oh, it's going to be tomorrow. It's going to be tomorrow. Or it's going to be, we're going to do something different. It's like you just keep doing more of the same, and it's like just this naked singularity of this black hole that's just you're just taking $100 bills and just throwing it into a furnace to run this train. It's like maybe you should try something different. Just let's look at the shows we have on the CW. So you got three things here. You got Marvel and DC. I mean, I know it's Marvel, but it's really Marvel, DC, Black, Image, Dark Horse. It's all of them. And the CW, which is like I said, that Wonder Woman, that Batwoman, the guy does a review on YouTube, Thoris Unliving. It's really funny. And then comic book stores closing. And this guy who threatened EVS a while ago, he's either got legitimate mental illness, the guy who threatened him, not EVS, or chemical dependency kind of stuff. Kind of like, so it felt like I remember that when he was writing these threatening tweets, it felt like the guy had mixed, I don't know, something mixed. You know how people can get occasionally something weird, or he's just a weirdo. Who knows? The thing is, it's not the retailer's fault, and it's not the customer's fault. It's not your fault. You never have to settle for bad comics or bad CW storylines or bad Marvel. You can demand better product. If you're paying $4 for a comic, it's like, oh, it should be worth $4. It doesn't have to be. You open it up, it's like, oh, okay. There's like trans, furry, otherkin, POC, BLT woman. That seems like the demographic you're going for. At least traditionally, would be males from like 8 years old. Is that when you start reading comics? 8-ish to however on up. Usually they kind of age out around 15-ish for the big bulk of comic book readers, at least back in the day. And then I know some never age out of it. They just move on to different types of comics. Like back in the day, it was like Marvel had flawed characters, but it was a little bit more juvenile, and DC was a little bit slightly more adult. But then there's other comics beyond that, and there's like comics within comics type of thing to go for. You can just move on to something more. Like Batman was always a slightly older audience than like a Spider-Man, which was like Marvel had flawed characters, but it still was kind of childish. But the thing is, it's not the customer's fault, and it's not the retail store owner. It's like you can't move a product that doesn't want to be moved. Now, here's the thing with anything that's serial. It doesn't matter if it's with an S. It doesn't matter if it's comics, a show, or a movie, or any kind of genre like that. You can have a couple of weirdo episodes for sure, but you can't indicate a complete change in direction from what the customer signed up for and expect the customer to get on board with that. Especially with comics, it's like that customer was 8 to 18-ish, and that's like a male audience. And it's kind of the similar for CW, for all this stuff, for mainstream comic retailer stores, the CW show, which I like, Batwoman, Supergirl, all this kind of like just abysmal abomination, abortions of shows. You got, traditionally a male audience. And, most people want to see something that looks like them, or not always, but they want to see something they can identify with. And even if it doesn't look like them, let me take that back. It doesn't necessarily have to look like them, but it has to respect them. You can't belittle them, demean them, degrade them, talk down to them, patronize them, just based on whoever they are. And comics did not used to do that, and now they do. They're entirely, like, you can look at comics in current day, or even within the past 5 or 10 years, and they're unrecognizable from the peak of comics back in the day. Anyway, so the CW has got a bunch of superhero type shows that you think okay, there's been $1 billion movies are have been made for the past 20 years. So you think there's a big potential audience out there between like 10 to 30 that you can, the male audience between 10 to 30 that you really want to grab onto. But then they start swapping out these characters for like BLT, trans, POC, and mostly women. And then not only swapping out the characters, which is one thing, but then the next hit, like people, you can you can overload this camel with so many things, and it just keeps slowing down. But eventually, it just collapses. It's not gonna move forward, and you're doing too much. It's like, listen, if you want to put a chick in the role, she's got to be a hot chick, and she's got to be have a lot of personality that really just jumps off the screen. You can't have her be someone that nobody wants to be around. People have to, they have to see something in her. It's not necessarily they want to bang her, but they at least want to be around her. There's something. She's clever, she's smart, she's funny. There's something about her. You can't have her look like she doesn't even want to be in the show, which is what a lot of these. Or here's the thing: it's like it's primarily a male audience you're going for. You can't put a BLT woman in that role and expect to have a male audience. Even if they literally don't want to bang her, it's like that's kind of a straw man. They go, oh, you just want to have sex with some cartoon character. No, but they want to identify with her some way. And it's like, oh, she's a BLT character. She likes other women. Okay, so there's nothing for the male audience to wrap their heads around. Like you have to connect with it in some way. And if it's she's female and a POC and BLT, it's too alien. And you can ad hominem your customer all you want, call them all this kind of istophobic stuff, but that doesn't make them your customer. They just walked out the door while you're calling them all this stuff. Or you get on Twitter and you're perpetually outraged about, the customers just won't support this product because she's BLT and trans. Well, okay, that's their choice. Got to respect, got to respect their choice. I mean, and it doesn't matter why they didn't buy the product. They didn't buy the product. That's the only thing that matters. You don't have their money. They walked out the door. And then, in this case, the guy had to close his retail store. It's not his fault. It's not Ethan's fault. It's the people who made the comics' fault. They made a product that nobody wanted. CW, they're trying to unload it. It is their fault because they're making shows with things that nobody is touching base with. Nobody has any connection to these characters. And the shows are like Batwoman, Supergirl, stuff that you vaguely have. Here's one of the things. These two women sitting and talking to each other. Hey, maybe they're talking about periods and PMS, or maybe they're talking about dieting. That's fascinating. But they're probably not talking about their boyfriends because they're probably not straight. Anyway, so the guy gives this long corporate double talk spiel, which is about nothing. But the thing is, you've got like all the shows are in the red, nothing's selling. So this is the time where you don't try to give the double talk. You just get real honest. Like, okay, we took this thing in a direction that people weren't on board with. This is the time when you say we're going to have a massive restructuring. We're going to change everything. We went in a direction we thought people would come along with us. They didn't, so we're going to go back to giving you what you want. And it depends how far. Like you could, if you wanted to, you could swap in male characters. If you'd race swapped or sex swapped characters, you could swap in German men through all these characters and not even explain it. Just friggin' do it and see what happens. Because you're already bombing horribly. You might as well try something radical. But if you didn't want to go that far, you didn't. If you wanted to maintain the characters, you could. But that old straw man about like some idiot white guy in a commercial will be saying, "Oh, honey, you should smile more." And he's like, of course, he's the sexist, blonde hair, blue eyed. Yes, for shows, yes, you should smile more. You should not be looking like this. I know this is just one scene taken out of context. I know, but this exemplifies a lot of the feeling around the show. This kind of like, I don't even want to be here. Anyway, so this is the time you say, like, we're going to do massive restructuring. But he does his corporate doublespeak and he says, so what does this mean right now? It means we must continue to do what we do best. Yeah, you don't do anything best. All your shows are losing money. Almost all of them are losing money. Out of like 20 shows, I think 18 of them are massively underperforming, which means as a whole, the company's not making any money this year or last year or the year before. It's just a money pit. You're just burning $100 bills. We're going to make the CW as successful and vibrant as we've always done, but it's not a success, so this is insane. This is insane levels of copium. We have a lot of work ahead of us. With more original programming than ever, the season's expansion of Saturday Night are growing digital and streaming platforms, and we thrive when we come together and build the CW together. Pedowitz concluded. Why wouldn't you change that name as soon as you hit 18? I'm sure I don't know. Thing is, this is not the time to say this kind of stuff. Let me get down to the shows. They show you the shows that are bombed. There's one show that's not bombing. This is not the time to do that kind of copium. If you can get all this stuff in the red, those are all the shows that are not selling. There's even the show that does have almost 1 million viewers. Has got that's not even 1 million, 900,000 viewers. Is still underperforming. So all the shows are underperforming except for one. And the numbers are not very good. Here, these things like TV in general is not kind of the place to be right now. I guess they've got the streaming service, but you're not going to pay $5 a month for Batwoman or The Flash or Supergirl or any of these shows. They're not worth it. You can go sailing the high seas, and I'm not saying that's not what I mean. But I mean, when sailing the high seas is so easy to do, you need to make people want to support you. They need to like the product. They need to like you, and not just go pirate it. The thing is, I don't know if I'm saying that, like, if you went to a stream service, I don't even know if people would be pirating this, because you're talking about not even 1 million people. Or like the best show is not even 1 million people. Walker, and everything after that, The Flash, 700,000 people. Batwoman is almost about 400,000 people. Who's watching this stuff? I kind of think, okay, you're selling to like a teenage female audience, but you're also selling BLT, POC stuff, and there's not a whole lot of audience for that out there. I guess you're selling to teenagers and maybe college lesbians, maybe. Anyway, there's a lot of get woke, going broke going on, and that's not always true, but it's more true than not. There's a whole string of movies in the past 5 years that have pretty much, including the past 3 years, that have underperformed, and some have outright bombed. Like all the superhero movies in the past 3 years, I think all of them have either bombed or underperformed. Suicide Squad, Wonder Woman 84, Shang-Chi is probably profitable, but probably just barely profitable. That G.I. Joe thing. I'm just loosely saying all superhero genre movies, like, because if you like one type of movie, you're probably going to like the other type of movie too. There's a bunch of these movies that are just Black Widow. I don't know if that bombed or not, but it's going to be like, oh yeah, in 10 years we finally made our money through streaming services. Like, we finally crossed over into Black. Well, that's not how return on investment works. They want their money up front. Like Captain Marvel didn't bomb. Obviously, that made $1 billion. So it's not always get woke, go broke. But there still wasn't a good movie, and the only reason it did well. And I would love to hear some soy boy like Matt Jarbo say, like, oh, it was a good movie, and tell me why you thought it was a good movie, and look me in the eye when you're telling me why you thought it was a good movie, because I suspect you're lying to me. Anyway, like, comment, subscribe. I'll see you guys all next episode.